Hello there guys, what is going on? Son of Chelsea back here again for another edition of Let's Talk Chelsea. Hope you're all doing well and keeping safe wherever you're watching this. The breaking news, Edouard Mendy has officially signed for Chelsea Football Club. Chelsea have now signed a goalkeeper in this window. I think a lot of people, critics of the club, but also some fans as well, rightly, were concerned about the lack of investment in that area as the summer has dragged on, based on the fact it's been a problem position for us. Kepa Arrizabalaga's form recently, very relevant based on the game against Liverpool and Brighton as well. And with all these exciting attacking additions like Werner, like Havertz, like Ziyech, and even Chilwell and Silva, it was that one position that many people believed Chelsea needed to rectify this summer to have a decent season. They have now. Whether Edouard Mendy will be the magical answer Chelsea need, we'll have to wait and see, but it is a position Chelsea needed to strengthen, and I think there's a lot of interesting parts of this deal that I think are good to discuss going into the season and to see how Mendy will cope being a Chelsea player. But before we get into any of that, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're excited about Mendy becoming a Chelsea player, because it helps out the channel as well. It seems like the deal has taken a little bit longer than Chelsea expected it to. Simon Johnson from The Athletic broke the story, I believe a couple of weeks back, that Chelsea were very close to signing Mendy. Then there seemed to be some conflict about a potential loan move involved in Mendy coming to Chelsea for Kairo Tomori going out on loan in the swap deal, basically. You know, Mendy coming to Chelsea, Tomori going out on loan for the season. Giroud was touted at one point. Doesn't seem like that's going to be the case now, and Chelsea very much just getting Edouard Mendy for a fee that is believed to be just over £20 million here. As you can see from Jacob Steinberg in The Guardian, Chelsea agreed $22 million deal. A lot of this news broke on Saturday afternoon. Also here from Fabrizio Romano and also Matt Law. So it was a deal that needed to be announced. It couldn't have come soon enough based on Kepa Arrizabalaga's form, which we'll get into because it's such a problem area for Chelsea based on this season and also last season as well. But before we get into Mendy, his attributes, what he can bring to Chelsea to improve that area, I just think it's an amazing story personally for Mendy as a footballer, as a person. As you can see from this tweet here, when Chelsea originally linked to Mendy a few weeks back, from Matt Spiro here, Edouard Mendy to Chelsea would be an incredible story. 5 years ago, aged 23, he was unemployed, queuing at a local job centre and ready to quit football. Has shown amazing strength as well as real quality as a goalkeeper. And that's something I think a lot of the time when we're talking about transfers and just players in general, we forget about, you know, the human story, the human element of this. This is someone that has dealt with real adversity, real struggle, and come back from that and had an amazing career now. You know, he's gone from Rennes, he's come to Chelsea. It's big pressure, but I think based on the fact that at 23 years old, based on the trajectory of footballers, you know, footballers a lot of the time now, it's getting younger and younger in terms of getting into an academy, growing from there, really getting into the first team at 21, 22, even younger than that sometimes, and then developing your career. I know for goalkeepers it's a little bit different in terms of time for their career, but still, it's an incredible story. And I think for characters, for dealing with struggle and adversity, I think you've got a very strong character here, a very strong person, a very strong mentality. I think it's a very inspiring story. So there's that to pick out as well, because I think that could be easily tossed to the side, but I think that's a very interesting point to pick up because I think it's something we do forget. Someone who's strong, resilient, can deal with setbacks, which I'm sure Chelsea want in their squad. Next for me is Petr Cech's influence on this transfer. We've heard about Petr Cech's influence on other transfers like Timo Werner, the relationship between Frank Lampard and Petr Cech almost as that middleman. We heard from Matt Law a few months back in regards to a goalkeeper that Petr Cech was being asked to sort of draft up two lists based on goalkeepers. I assume based on what I read that maybe is like the sort of the lower fee goalkeepers that Chelsea could have signed, which is going to be Mendy, and also maybe the higher fee goalkeepers like Jan Oblak that maybe have been drafted. But and other names we've heard about, Dean Henderson recently, Nick Pope has been another one, Andre Onana too. But I also think, you know, Petr Cech obviously having that connection to Rennes where he played before he joined Chelsea, but also Lampard handing the responsibility to Petr Cech to make this transfer happen, to go out and scout the goalkeeper, what we needed this summer in that position. And I think if there's anyone better to judge Chelsea's next goalkeeper, of course it's going to be Petr Cech. And it shows not only the ability Cech has to be that sort of right middleman between Frank Lampard and the Chelsea board to get things done in terms of transfers and decision making, but also the expertise Cech has to identify a new goalkeeper for Chelsea. So I think that's very important as well. It's a problem position that needs to be addressed. Chelsea could not go throughout this window without addressing it. It was a point of no return for Kepa. It has been for quite a while. This stat from Duncan Alexander on Twitter, I think it was on Sunday, after he let in that goal, the two goals against Liverpool, Kepa has let in 8.4% of the goals Chelsea have ever conceded in the Premier League. So that's over 20 years, isn't it? And that's just shocking. It really is. And I think the stats last year were just harrowing. They were. I mean, even if I'm sympathetic towards Kepa. I'm concerned, obviously, about, you know, all the scrutiny he has at the moment. It's just something Chelsea needed to address. They really did. And I think it's the trust, not only, I think, of fans, obviously, towards him, the scrutiny from media and press, always cameras looking at him. The stats are just historically bad for Kepa in terms of Premier League goalkeepers. It's the lack of confidence, the lack of trust or presence in that area, which Chelsea have lacked for a few years now. And it's just a negative spiral at this point that isn't going to be recovered, I don't think. So Chelsea had to go out there and sign a new goalkeeper. I want to reference the Breaking the Line scout report I did a few weeks back when we originally linked with Mendy, and it seemed this deal was close. I think it's really interesting. We'll link it once again in the description box below, because if you don't know a lot about Mendy, which a lot of us didn't when he was originally linked to us a few weeks back, it really gives you an in-depth look at Mendy, the type of goalkeeper he is, his strengths, his weaknesses, what he's developed over the years, just to reference some of this. And I think it's a lot of the optimism about Mendy coming in is his height, is his stature in goal, which Chelsea have lacked, maybe adding that dominance in that area, which Chelsea have lacked, especially at set pieces. And this is what the scout report says. Standing at 6 feet 6 inches tall, Mendy is a physically dominant goalkeeper with great shot stopping ability and great reflexes. He has averaged a save percentage of 79% over the past 3 seasons and boasts a PSXG of plus 6.3 over the past 2 seasons. PSXG is expected goals based on how likely a goalkeeper is to save a shot. In other words, he has overperformed what was expected of him in the past 2 seasons and saved his team from conceding more goals than they have. And also, just looking at stats in this scout report as well, aerially Mendy is one of the best goalkeepers in Europe at the moment. He's really overperforming in that area, and I think it's something Chelsea have needed, something that Chelsea and Frank Lampard talked about at the back end of last season. Height in that area is something we've lacked, and Chelsea needed to improve in that area. We need Mendy. We need a player like that, just a commanding presence to dominate the area. I think it's very much similar to me with centre-back. What did we need? Danger awareness, command of that area, maturity, just presence and leadership in a sense. And hopefully that's what Mendy will bring. I also think on top of this, just in terms of maybe the settling in period, but also what that back four defence is going to look like with Mendy within there, the French connection. That's something about betting in at Chelsea. And we think about it with Thiago Silva coming in, a French-speaking player, obviously learning the English language very quickly, but, you know, having to pick that up over time, alongside Seya Kurtzuma, and behind him, of course, Edouard Mendy in goal, who, even though he's a Senegalese international, can speak French, of course, because he's played in the French league. And maybe having that triangle of players who can speak the language and maybe settle in and have that communication and chemistry back there very naturally early on, as both of those players, Silva and Mendy, get used to playing in the Premier League for Chelsea. So I think that's an important thing to point out as well, that maybe just for adaptation and him settling in is good, and maybe could form a really strong connection and partnership throughout the season. Obviously, now we'll have to wait and see how long it is till Mendy makes his full debut for Chelsea, based on his fitness, based on how ready he is to go straight into the first team. Frank Lampard's decision making, it's very important. But just based on the stats last season on Kepa, you know, if Chelsea have a goalkeeper that's not even amazing, you know, world class, just decent, we're going to concede a lot less goals, which is very harsh on Kepa, but that's the reality of the situation and why this transfer had to happen. So those are my thoughts on it. I'm interested to hear your thoughts as well. I think this is very important. I really hope Mendy can be the answer, even if he's not a world-class goalkeeper, just to keep it, it can improve that area, because we've lacked it so much in the previous season, and hopefully will be the answer for Chelsea this season between the sticks. But those are my thoughts on Mendy's signing. Please let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter @SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.